Donuts.
Okay, so if we have a look at so we've talked about the allocations and how you dictate the percentages, but then you're going to get this operating expenses number, which is just put at 50% here, for the sake of whatever, that they all have to just equal 100. Emergency fund has to be 5. Tax is generally 25. If you're sole trader, then everything that comes in, you have to figure out which tax bracket you're in. So your percentage might, like if you're in the lowest income earning, I think it's like 18%, but it gets up to like 32 or 37 if you're earning heaps. But as a company, it's 25. So that's what we've got. So this is an example of weekly expenses. So this is what you'll need to do to figure out your outgoings, because obviously they're going to fluctuate. You don't pay everything weekly, but you need to know how much you will need to have in your operating expenses account to account for all your outgoings. So I've broken these all up into categories. So operating expenses, this should actually say subscriptions, and should be like that ish. Anyway, so Clinico, I pay annually. My assumed and my actual spend are the same. Sometimes it's like if I'm paying for the text credits for Clinico, it's not always the same depending on the clients. So that's why there's assumed and an actual column, but it's the same. So you don't necessarily need to fill both of those out. I could probably just fill out actual spend because I know that that's what it is. But you know, like maybe I hire 2 more staff and this has to go up to $2,000 or whatever. But then this operating expenses is this divided by 52 because it's annual. But then Spotify, I pay monthly. So my actual spend is $12.34 a month, which equates to this divided by 4.3. And then obviously if you've got weekly, it's just as is, because these operating expenses, this is all weekly. So this is example business calls, as in like your calls with me, if they were $100 a week or whatever it is. Your phone bill, your Zoom, you just basically put all your subscriptions in here, and you can obviously adjust this on the fly every week. You sign up for something else, you add it. You take something else away, you remove it. So this is a constantly updating chart. For your accreditation to remain accredited, we need ESSA, you need ESSA, you need APRA, you need insurance, you need first aid, and you just figure out how much that you need to pay for that each year, and you divide it by 52 or whatever.
Yeah. Because I'm a company, not a sole trader, would you include like the business mentoring and all of my accreditation stuff under the company, or because I'm paying for that myself externally, would you not include it?
Do you need it to run your business?
Yes.
Well, that's a business expense.
So it should be coming out of my business account?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Almost everything you do should be coming out of your business account.
Yeah. That's yeah, okay. Yeah.
So travel, accommodation for me when I fly interstate to go and work with athletes or whatever, I account for that because previously when we were allowed to travel, I was able to do so, and it was roughly this much a year. And so I put aside, what's that, like maybe 50, 60 bucks a week for travel purposes. Yeah. So that's just sits there in my operating expenses account. Wages, for example, if you pay yourself $3,600 a month, that's $837 a week. That is an operating expense. That is not a like profit. That is not an extra. You need to have that to pay yourself your own bills. Yeah. It's really important that your wages go in your operating expenses and not like the other category. Yeah. Okay. And my others would go in there too. My other employees. Yeah, absolutely. So their wages go in there too. Yeah. Gym rent. So this is for you, your facility rent. So it's obviously not going to be 200, but most PTs is about that. And then you have irregular fees. So I just sort of figure out, accounting, bookkeeping is, roughly, actually I would have to change that in mine personally, but like bookkeeping and all these things, you sort of figure out how much they are roughly. And then you go, oh, okay, maybe I do this quarterly. So you divide it by 12 or whatever it is. But that's just how I've categorized it. And it's also like, this is probably the section, if shit hits the fan, you can take money from this section. Yeah. So like, I don't necessarily, like, if I can't pay my own wage, I'm not buying gifts for referrers. Or, I mean, like, that's probably something you want to keep, but it's like, I don't need to buy client gifts or office supplies, you know, like those things are not as relevant.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can change this and whatever. I used to have a column that was like COVID column. It's like, okay, my rent went to 50% and I changed this and I removed my membership here and whatever else. So, you know, like your minimum and your maximum. And then marketing, I have a different column for, because of the fact that there's a column for marketing in the business expense. Yeah. And you pick a percentage for that. Maybe you put your marketing guy's wage in the marketing column. I don't know, but I mean, I would probably put it in the operating, because this is the one that you have to hit. But then if you pay for paid ads, that would go in the marketing column. Yeah. Okay. And so that's marketing. And then education is, so I paid for my coach to do Olympic lifting with this chick. I have a education budget for my staff. I have my own coach for my training. I use some subscriptions, and these are some one-off courses that I've run and how much they were. So I can save that for if I want to do something similar every year. So what ends up happening, is you have these 3 numbers down here, and this is your must have. So for operating expenses for this example, I must have $1,207 in my operating expenses column. So this needs to be 1,207. Obviously, if I only had an income of 1,000, I'm pretty fucked. But let's just say it was 2,300. I needed 1,000. What was it? 1,207. So I go back 115. So it doesn't equal it. So I go 51%. It was 1,205. So I need 1,2. There you go. So that reaches it. So you have to have a minimum of that in there. So obviously now it equals 103%. You can't have it over 100 because you don't have that money. So then you go, okay, well, my profit's going to go down by 3% because that's non-essential. Yeah.
What do you do if it's over or under?
If what's over or under? If
like, say you end up with more money in than.
So say you had like 4,000 this week.
Yeah.
Instead of 2,300. So what I've done here, what I do here. Oh, sorry. I do
profit. Okay.
So yeah, you would just change the number. So I go here and then I go copy, and then I actually go paste special and paste values only. So say this was last week, which it is according to where we're at today, then I actually change the color of it just so I know that's going to change. So if I write this needs to be 20%, it only changes that number. Did you see that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
If I go back to 12, watch this box. Changes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So these numbers are now stuck because what you will have done is transferred the money from your account, your income holding account, into all your other business bank accounts that have these titles. And so obviously it still has to equal 100%, but you go, okay, I know, maybe your weekly expenses went up, or maybe they didn't, maybe they're the same, maybe they're 1,207. So now you're at 2. You don't need that much in there. So you drop it 1,207. So it'd be 31. Yep. So that's above, but we're at 78%. Does that make sense? So you made bank this week, so you won. So then you just, so then my math isn't great, but let's see how we go. What you could do, maybe I want 28% profit, or maybe you only want 20% profit. That's your maximum. And then you're going to reinvest. So you put 10 here. And what does that equal? Like,
okay.
Like you can
play. The emergency would be if you fall under, then you draw it from there. Or like,
ideally you only want your operating expenses to be around 50%.
Yeah. Okay.
To be able to stay open.
Okay.
But your weekly expenses will dictate. So the emergency account buffer, this is just like a general business rule, is having 3 months minimum operating expenses. So this is just this 15,500 you can see is just E55, which is this number, times 13, which is a quarter.
Okay.
So the idea is until you have 15,500 just sitting in your emergency account for a rainy day or for when COVID fucks you over next time, then you always put 5% into that account.
Yeah. Cool.
And what's going to happen is this number will probably increase over time. And so will the emergency buffer number that you need.
Yeah. If you have a week where you hit under, you take that money by decreasing your operating expenses. Is that somehow?
So you're saying like under the
what happens if I get
expenses fee?
Yeah, like what happens if for 1 week
you were like say 1,000 or something?
Yeah.
Instead of like 1-2. Well, you immediately get zero profit. You shouldn't fall into this category because you absolutely need money for tax.
Yeah.
But considering, hang on, let's Control Z this for a second.
I'm just thinking like this week, like being closed, still paying staff.
Yep.
It's
so
probably
what's happened here is, what did we do? No, that was 9. So we're just going to go here. We're going to go copy, and then we're going to go paste values only. And we're going to say, okay, so this money's already touched, done. So if I change these percentages, it won't change. But for example, you only got 1,000 this week. Then you immediately go 0 here. You make this 75. This is 0, this is 0, this is 0. Because you're taking from the emergency fund anyway.
Yeah.
That still doesn't, like, you're still going to be down. So what I would do then, I would honestly probably personally, like I would keep the tax as is, but I would draw from whatever is sitting in your bank account in your profits.
Yeah. Okay.
So because of the last 2 weeks in this scenario, you've accumulated over $1,000 worth of profit.
Yeah.
You would draw from that and put it into your operating expenses.
Yes, that makes sense. Cool.
Obviously, if you're going backwards, you need to reassess some things. But you can take from your marketing. You don't need to put anything in marketing if you're not making any money. You wouldn't put anything. Like education and marketing are kind of like I've said here, nice to have, but you must have this, because otherwise you are not sustainable and you're not, I guess, able to continue to survive.
Yeah. Yep.
This gives you a very like shit hits the fan odometer.
Yeah. No, that's good to have.